We all know the importance of asking questions during a sales conversations. It is really important because it allows you to understand what your prospective clients are looking for. It allows you to discover the potential objections from buying from you and eventually close the sales. But how do you ask effective sales questions? And that is what we're going to be talking about. How do you ask the questions so that people would open up to you and talk about what the challenges they're facing and eventually let you know whether they want to work with you or not? So for anybody who do not know me, let me introduce myself. My name is Melinda Chan. I'm the founder of Women Making Big Sales. We're here to show you every single steps and tips or strategies to help you to sell to big clients, high value clients, high ticket clients, or even corporate clients. And that is the specific strategies we talk about in at Women Making Big Sales. So if you have not subscribed to either our YouTube channel or Facebook page or become part of our email list, please do so. You can do it wherever you're watching this video now and be part of this community and start getting the strategies that are specific for high value clients. So let's get to today's topic. We're going to be talking about how to ask effective sales questions. The first tip is ask for permission. And this is really important, especially if you don't really know that your prospective clients well. And if you're in a more formal sales situation, for example, if you're doing a sales presentation or if you're doing a really formal sales meeting, then it's always helpful to ask for permission. You can really start up with something like this. Hi, Mr. Jones. I'm excited to have a chance to meet with you. And, I would like to ask you a few questions to really see how I would be able to help your company. If you don't mind, can I ask you a few sales questions? Here you are able to ask for their permission. That shows respect. It gives themselves a short period of time to say, hey, am I okay with this person asking me questions? If they're not okay, they will tell you, and you can try to discover how you are able to start off the sales conversation. So asking for permission is really important to set the tone right at the beginning of the sales conversation. The second thing is also about explaining the reasons why you're asking for this information. So when you're explaining the reason, you could do that at the beginning of the sales conversation. What I just did before when I was talking about Mr. Jones, I said, in order for me to really see how I can help your company, that is the reason. Why am I asking you the sales questions? I'm asking you because I want to see how I can help you. But if you explain why you're doing it, people feel more comfortable and people feel more comfortable answering those questions. And it's been proven over and over again by psychologists, scientists, that if you explain why you're doing something, then people are more likely to say yes to whatever you're doing and to give you that permission. So explain the reasons. And this is especially useful when you're asking for sensitive information. Sometimes you might need to understand, for example, the sales number of your prospective clients. You want to know, hey, what is their annual sales revenue? You might need to ask, the challenges they're facing in the company. Sometimes they are sensitive information and you have to give them reason why you're asking that. You have to explain to me that I'm only asking this question because I need to determine the best product or service for you because I want to find a strategy to help your company. So, especially if you know that you're asking something that's a little bit more sensitive, always try to explain the reasons first. The third tip is plan ahead of time. You're about to get into a sales conversation, and sometimes it can be a little bit challenging knowing what kind of questions to ask. Even though you really want to work with this person, sometimes you might have tons of questions for them. There could be a period of time where you just get that kind of brain freeze and you don't know what to say and your brain just blanked. So it is always very helpful to plan ahead of time, plan a few questions that you want to ask during that sales conversation. And there are all different kinds of sales questions to ask, but they all serve different purposes. And let me share with you different kinds of sales questions that you probably want to use to serve different purposes. There's the discovery questions. So discovery sales questions are the questions that you need to know in order to know whether this person is qualified, what kind of service you can provide to this person. So discovery questions are really the questions that you want to know the answers to these questions. You want to know the size of your prospect's company. You want to know their revenue. You want to know their competitors, or you want to know who the decision makers are. So these are the discovery questions that you actually have a reason. You need to know the answers to these questions in order to continue that sales conversation. So that is the first type of the sales conversation. The second type of sales conversation, I call them straight up sales questions. So what it means is that these are the questions that you usually ask when you're trying to use them to enhance your sales, the chances of closing the sales. You ask these questions to showcase the strengths of your services or your questions. So for example, if you know that your service is a little bit cheaper than your competitors, so one of the sales questions you could ask is, do you think that the cost is an important factor for you to decide on whether to work with us? Do you think that cost is an important deciding factor for for this year's budget? So when you highlight that cost, and if they say yes, cost is important, then naturally you can talk about the fact that you're a little bit cheaper than your competitors. Cost is not the only thing. Sometimes you offer better quality, so you can ask sales questions about how a better quality product can affect their company. Whether they've experienced challenges with whether they've ever experienced quality problems, and those questions allow you to bring that conversation to where you want to highlight to the strengths of your product. So I call it sales questions. So ask yourself, hey, what am I good at? What am I better? How am I better than my competitors? And highlight that using sales questions. And the third question, it's called objection questions. So if you think that there could be any potential objections, you could use questions to help them answer and help them understand that, hey, the potential objections they have might not be the most important thing. And this kind of ties into the sales questions. So again, if you think that your prospect is having problem or thinking that you might be too expensive, then you can ask them about the importance of qualities. And then that is how you steer the attention from pricing to quality. Okay, well, I'm going to move on to the next tip because I think we're getting a bit long with this video. So the next tip is use their language. When you're talking to your prospective clients, depending on their industry, use the language to use within that specific industry. For example, acquisition cost, conversion rate, if you're in marketing sphere. And if you don't know what language they use, what kind of metrics they use, simply Google it. It's very simple to Google business metrics for specific industries, business metrics for pharmaceutical industries, business metrics for construction industries. And then you'll have tons of information, and ask yourself how you can use those words in your sales conversation. So we talked a lot about planning ahead. I just talked about prepare some questions ahead of time so that you always know what to ask for. Do the research about the business language or business metrics that they might use within that specific industry. But the next tip is about listen closely. And this happens a lot when we plan so much. And I know a lot of us were the planners. We want to be in full control of our situation. We want to control that sales conversation, and so that we can lead our prospects to the end result, which is closing the sales with them. But sometimes, and a lot of times, the most important thing is just to keep that agenda, keep that planning at the back of your head. You know that you've planned enough, but now it is your time to listen when you are in front of your prospects. Because a lot of times, if you listen closely, you're able to discover things that you have not thought about. You did not realize the challenge that they might have. So listen closely, ask questions based on the answers they just given you. So imagine that your prospective clients that's sitting in front of you is your best friend who's going through a potential breakup. And your job is to consult them, to discover to discover whether they're feeling the pains, to understand how they're feeling, and to eventually lead them, to help them get out of the breakup. And that would be the conversation you're having. And sometimes I think that kind of visualization and visualization is really helpful to calm the stress during a sales conversation. Visualize that, if I visualize that this person is simply my friend and my job is to help this friend deal with certain challenges, I feel more calm myself, and I think that my prospect can feel it too, and they would be more open to answering my sales questions. So listen to your prospect closely, and also keep it personal. And a lot of times I like you to use some words that would make the whole conversation very personal. I would be using the sentence kind of like, I have been thinking about you. I haven't been thinking about your company, or, I was just wondering. And these are the words and sentences that make the whole conversation a lot more personal, and also give the impression that you truly care. So when you try different things, I have my sales script. I think a lot of you have my sales script. The sales scripts I use to bridge the conversations to start up a business conversation. So if you have not downloaded that, I would really encourage you to download that. But use some simple sentences to make that sales conversation more personal. And at the end, be supportive. I talked about the visualization that you could use, and think of your prospects as if it's your friend, or even if you have kids, a little bit like your kids, and trying to understand your teenage kids, the challenges they're facing, and how you're going to help them. And that kind of visualization, I think it's very helpful. So that's it. Those are the tips. Let me just recap. Ask for permissions. Explain the reasons why you're asking sensitive information. Plan ahead of time, and use the business metrics or business language that your prospective client is in. Listen closely, keep it personal, be supportive, and visualize that your prospective client is just simply your friend or your child. That's it. I hope these will help you have a great sales conversation. Discover your prospective clients' pains. As mentioned, if you have not liked our Facebook page, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, or be part of the email list, you please do so. And especially email list, that's where I send out the real juicy, dirty secrets of selling to big companies. So if you want to really know behind the scenes secrets, then you have to sign up to our newsletter. I look forward to talking to you next time. Bye.